Welcome to Health Tech Matters. I'm your host, Lamiece Hassan. In this special episode, Videha and I join you live from the HETT North conference on the 2nd of March 2023. Okay, so we're here today at HETT North. I'm sat with Videha and we've been to a couple of talks this morning. What do you think about the conference so far? What's the atmosphere like here?
Yeah, thanks, Louise. It's really good to be here. It's a great event. We've seen a lot of people. The room's been packed. There's not been enough seats for folks, which really reflects how important people think digital health and innovation is at this point in time. So it's fantastic to have an event in Manchester and have so many people attend.
And yeah, I think the other thing you said, which I agree with, is there's a real kind of mix of people in the room. It's really exciting to see such a diverse crowd.
Absolutely, an inclusive and diverse approach to digital health research and also transformation is really important to design solutions that meet the needs and requirements of our population. So it's fantastic to see people from global majority backgrounds attending today and participating actively on panels as well as in the audience.
So Videha, have you ever been to any of the HETT conferences before? This is my first one, and I gather this is a bit of a satellite event, HETT North.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've had the privilege of attending two previous HETT events, both down in London, which is why it's fantastic to have the event come up to Manchester and represent speakers and, of course, be an opportunity for audience members across the UK to come and attend. I think we often experience as healthcare professionals as well as researchers that particular areas of the country or maybe perhaps even internationally have a focus on investment and excitement around innovation, which is why it's great to be able to spread that excitement around the country and have people come to places where perhaps previously been underserved or not been highlighted as well on the map. So Lamiece, we've just come out of the first keynote of the day with Tim Ferriss from the Transformation Directorate of NHS England. I thought he raised some really valuable points and was very inspiring. What did you think?
So I was really excited about hearing Tim's talk, and for me it didn't disappoint. And there were a couple of things that stood out for me in terms of research. One was he was really excited about the prospect of secure data environments. And of course we know that Greater Manchester is currently working on developing a secure data environment as we speak, and talking about the prospect for that, for encouraging like public trust, but also key to being able to interrogate data safely and to unlock that potential there. So I thought that was really useful. And I think that the key takeaway for me was not to be afraid. So there was this idea that actually we sometimes get a bit preoccupied with the risks, that what if this might happen, that might happen. And what I got from him was a sense of optimism, daring us to really go for some of these challenges, to accept that we might fail sometimes, but have faith that ultimately we'll find ways around it. So we're lucky enough to be joined by Jenny Chong, who's just come off stage after interviewing Tim Ferriss. How was the interview, Jenny?
I think it was fantastic. Tim was really honest about a lot of things, and he really gave us a good insight. And I think that was actually where he actually announced that with the NHS app, which predominantly has been in the GP space with flowing data through, now it's actually going to be rolled out also to the acute trust, so we can start flowing data. Because at the end of the day, when we see a patient has come from primary care, and now it's going to secondary care, and when we refer them back to the community, they're going to go back to primary care. And we need to have the entire patient journey. So if we don't connect that data, then everything's very siloed, and the patient just gets frustrated with us actually not having their records to hand.
Yeah, sure. And Jenny, I'd love to hear a little bit more about your background. I think you've had a fantastic career in different spaces outside of healthcare, and I think that really adds value for people like us, me as a clinician, to get a perspective that is not traditional, that provides a different view on how to do things. Could you tell us a little bit more about your journey?
Yes, my background is very non-traditional. Definitely did not come up the NHS routes. So I started in investment banking. My background is actually maths and economics, so went straight into investment banking, but it was around the dot-com boom. So I was really interested in actually how technology fitted in together. So I started looking at the different components of what made up technology. I looked at how hardware works. So how do you install servers? How do you put data onto servers? How does data connect to each other? And then I moved into big data and AI, because with your data silos, having a big data platform to connect these different types of data, different formats of data, such that now you can get actionable insights out of it. I then developed platforms around behavioral analysis. So understanding when somebody is emitting different signals that indicate they could be doing something potentially malicious, and understanding how they got there. So I have worked in many different aspects of technology and data and AI, and so coming here today and actually also feeling the buzz around actually everybody wants to know about how do we leverage the potential of that is really fascinating, because a lot of people say let's just use some really cool AI tool out there, but actually you can't just wave a magic wand and have AI work. You actually need to understand the fundamentals of how do you build infrastructure, how do you build your data, and then how do you then do the analysis to extract what will ultimately be that AI model that you can start deploying. So yes, my background has been it's very non-traditional, and I joined the NHS about 3 years ago, and it's been a phenomenal journey since, because I think there's so much potential in the NHS where everybody they have so many good ideas, right? There's so much innovation, but it sits very much at the grassroots level. I'm not sure how we take that innovation and then translate it into something that we can see that's actionable and tangible within our trust.
Yeah, I think we definitely need more creative people and diverse people like you in the NHS to bring those different ideas and allow them to flourish. Tim mentioned something on stage which really spoke to me about risk and not being afraid. Do you think there's any lessons to the NHS in terms of the financial sector where you've worked previously that we can learn in terms of being more creative, or how do we free up thinkers so that we can introduce more creative ways of introducing tech?
I think to unlock your creative self, you have to not be afraid of what you get at the end of it, whether it is failure. And in the NHS, the word failure, people almost have this very allergic reaction to it. They think that failure means consequence, failure means punishment, failure means a patient died, and it's almost you can't get yourself out of that mindset. But what I see in the financial sector is there are a lot more risk-loving. They love problems, they want to solve the problems, and they are not afraid if they fail. So in the NHS, we have to make people feel safe that if they fail, they can learn from it. You can actually, through those lessons that you're learning, you can then improve. Because if you don't fail, you will never learn, and then you will never improve. So actually, how do we take that kind of risk tolerance level that I'm seeing in the financial sector and using that to unlock the creativity that I know exists within the NHS?
So I'm joined now by Emma, who's one of the organisers of HETT, and I'm really excited to ask her a bit more about the event, as well as about what she hopes that this will achieve. So Emma, to start off with, I want to ask you what motivates you particularly to work on events around healthcare and technology, and what do you think is special about HETT compared to perhaps other events?
Thanks. So, me personally, healthcare sector, it's an incredible sector. There's so much opportunity there for growth. When we relaunched HETT in 2019, we took a look at what was happening in the space at the time, and I think where the gap looked to be was looking at the kind of holistic challenges surrounding growing and achieving transformation in the NHS. It's a huge ecosystem, it's the biggest workforce in Europe, and fundamentally a lot of the challenges and friction comes from kind of structural challenges and the culture. And I think when we launched HETT in 2019, we wanted to really address that and look at things on a 360 perspective. And I think that there's a lot of opportunity for content with regards to that. So it's been a really fantastic product to design and see grow because of that reason.
Fantastic. And I think from my perspective, having attended a few HETT events, I always feel that it's an opportunity for the conversation to happen, and having those opportunities to get like-minded people together in an event to talk about important challenges that healthcare is facing provides an impulse to shift the dial. Is that something that you think HETT's hoping to achieve?
Yeah, definitely. And that's something that we were very conscious of. So when we were first looking at the kind of sessions we wanted to create, we were really intentional about creating kind of a 360 perspective and having a good blend and a good range of panels to showcase what was actually happening boots on the ground. So we consciously will always look to bring a good range of representatives, so having central function representation, having support mechanism representation, as well as C-suite and end user representation. For example, talking about patient-facing technology, we'd really make sure we'd have patient representatives on the session. Obviously, first and foremost, we're an exhibition for most of our events, so this way the supplier voice makes a lot of sense and how they slot into the system and how they actually are a solution. So that tends to be how we look to create most of our sessions. And so where we do have suppliers' voices, they always bring in clients, and fundamentally, people want to understand what the kind of blueprint will look like if they were to try and implement that solution for themselves, but also what the reprinting is, what would go wrong, and it's that full perspective, that 360 look is what we're aiming to achieve here.
Fantastic. And then the last question I want to ask you, this is just reflecting upon my experience today. It's been a fantastic event. I felt that the audience has been really, really diverse. It's been really great to see attendees from a real range of global majority backgrounds. And I also felt that was reflected on stage with a real good range of speakers that were bringing different perspectives to the table. Is that something that's done by design?
Certainly on the agenda, we always aim to have a diverse and inclusive agenda. It's one of those things. So I think when you're talking about female representation in events, that's pretty much a given, that people know that you can't have an all-male panel. People might come for you and call it a manel, but that's kind of part of the course. That's the bare minimum you should be doing. But the reality is that the NHS, as the biggest workforce in Europe, is also one of the most diverse workforces, and having an agenda that reflects the workforce is just a no-brainer, and it's not that hard to do. And perhaps I couldn't really comment on the audience, I suppose, that it attracts, because that's not by design. We don't design our audience, but perhaps having an agenda that reflects better the kind of ecosystems people are working in is a reason for that. But yeah, I couldn't really fully comment on why the audience is diverse, but I'm glad it is.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much.
So we're joined with Paul Johnston today from Health Innovation Manchester. Paul, what brings you to the conference today?
Just really, this is a conference about health innovation and technology, and being part of Health Innovation Manchester, that's what I'm here for. Find out a bit more, to talk to people and discover sort of people's experiences really of what they've found with sort of implementing things like virtual wards, which is one of the sessions I've just been in. And then we're looking at levelling up and health inequalities, digital inequalities and things like that. All part of our remit within Health Innovation Manchester. So that's why I'm here.
Fantastic. Yeah, I've just been in a session on virtual wards. But the other thing I wanted to mention to you, I heard Tim Ferriss this morning speaking about secure data environment, something you're passionate about?
Yep, certainly. We are passionate about Health Innovation Manchester. As you probably know, we're leading the way with the first wave of secure data environments. So we're developing our GM secure data environment along with a confederated data environment for the whole of the Northwest. So So we'll be capturing about 7.8 million people's data across the whole Northwest, and we're sort of at the requirements gathering stage at the moment. So we're interviewing lots of researchers and PIs and professors in informatics, a whole range of folks who are involved in sort of the analysis of health data and that joining of data sets. And I think it's going to be a really powerful tool for us in the future to be able to look at everything from the purest research, but developing things like AI and machine learning, natural language processing, to be able to do sort of wider epidemiological studies, and to bring in industry partners for things like clinical trials. So we've got a platform there that will serve a sort of wider sort of population, as well as a whole population of service planners, researchers, industry partners. It's going to be fantastic.
Fantastic. And something that's been mentioned several times about that kind of piece around developing like public trust.
Yeah.
Has that come up in your requirements gathering?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, one of the things that's really key in terms of the early stages of developing requirements is understanding what the public needs to understand about the way their data is used, so that they're comfortable with that. There is a national opt-out for research, but we want to be able to explain that to people, and if they don't want to participate, that's fine. But what we find is we have a public and patient panel with Health Innovation Manchester. When we talk to them, they're surprised that we're not doing this already, which is really strange. So it's one of those things that we're developing. We've got a big comms work stream going on that will go out to all the local sort of media outlets, social media, and that's really going to underpin what we're doing in terms of the requirements building, because we want people to feel that their data is safe, it's not going to be misused, and it's going to be deployed for the betterment of everyone.
Fantastic. Paul, we'll let you go. Enjoy the conference.
Okay, thanks very much, Lamiece.